This podcast is sponsored by valleygivesback.org. What will you be remembered for? Name a Valley nonprofit in your estate plan and create a legacy that tells future generations what mattered to you. Making a gift that costs nothing during your lifetime is easy and revocable if things change. With a planned gift, you have the power to impact the Valley forever without affecting your current lifestyle. Your action inspires others to make a difference in their own way. Remember the Valley. Ask your accountant, financial planner, or attorney about planned giving options. Plan now. Give later. Impact tomorrow. Learn more at valleygivesback.org.
For hundreds of years we've brought you the news. Printed the info, we gave you the clues. Owners' profits were always sky high. Changing market now threatens our lives. Post-literation, critical reading, dumbed down nation, signs have been breeding. TV sucking ideas from our head. Public discourse just about dead. We'll ride the dinosaur. Yeah, ride the dinosaur.
Hey everybody, welcome to Navel Gazing, the Valley Indies weekly podcast. Today's episode is a crossover with Valley Sports Rewind, and I'm joined by host Mike Kenichi. Hello, Mike.
Hi, Eugene. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing all right. Merry Christmas, happy holidays, all that good stuff.
Same to you and your family. Thank you.
So I am trying, dear listeners, to get Valley Sports Rewind back in a normal publication mode. Mike is always game to do it, but over the last, 6 months or so, I've sort of fallen apart in scheduling and et cetera, et cetera. But now I think for the new year, one of my resolutions is going to be to get this back on a regular track. So, Mike, I want to apologize and thank you for your patience.
No problem. Thank you for always allowing us to do it. I appreciate it.
So I thought maybe you and I could talk about, for a moment, the newest class of the Derby High School Athletic Hall of Fame.
Sure.
I guess first of all, you're sort of a key player, like one of many, I guess, that organized this thing and got it running. How many years ago did it start?
Well, we started like putting it out there on Facebook in like the winter 2014. We talked about, could we possibly do it? And then a few of us agreed to meet one night in the summer in August. And we had like a preliminary meeting, but we met. And from there on in, we would have monthly meetings. And it just kind of took off after that. It went quicker than I ever thought it would. I thought it would be a 3-year process before we named a class. And it only took us a year to name a class.
And what class number is this that you announced, I guess, a month or two ago?
Yeah, it'll be class number 4. So this will be our 4th year. And, that's pretty amazing because really, like, I even though, I helped organize it, I wasn't 100% sure we could really pull it off.
And why was that? Just because you thought people would drop off or commitments or what?
No, I would talk to different people, Eugene, about like their Hall of Fames and like just the money that was involved. I really thought it was going to be hard to fund, but I'll be honest with you, that really isn't even the hardest part. That's actually, believe it or not, the easiest part. People always support it. People always donate to it. And all those fears were totally unfounded.
And what are the expenses? Like, what are you spending money on?
What we do is we get each inductee a plaque, but we also get them a plaque inside the school. So say, we name 7 inductees, that's 14 plaques we have to get if you give one to them and one to the school, because we feel that you have to have a plaque in the school because otherwise it wouldn't make sense. Like, we want like the kids who walk those halls of Derby High School to kind of see these great athletes, and most importantly that they were student athletes too.
And when you walk those halls, you were in there in those very halls. And what you graduated, what, like 69 or so or something like that?
You're funny. 1995. But good joke. You had them going, I'm sure.
And then you also do what? So the announcement was made a month or two ago of the fourth class, and then you'll do a dinner. You haven't actually presented the recipients with their plaques at this point, right?
No, but what we did do was back in early November. It might have even been late October. I kind of get
Same
the
thing.
months kind of escape me, but we introduced them at one of the football games, and great job by the people who helped put it together. Like City Stitchers, we asked them for jackets literally on a Monday to have for Friday, and they got them done. And we presented each inductee a jacket, and they walked out on the field with their family. And we always kind of do that. So that you kind of introduce them the new class, and then I wanted to do the banquet a little earlier this year, but we weren't able to do that. So the banquet will actually be Sunday, April 28th, 2019,
Okay.
at 12:30 p.m. at Vazano's Four Seasons in Stratford. But going forward after this banquet, we've all agreed as a committee that going forward, the banquet will be held every year the weekend before Thanksgiving.
Oh, okay. So that ties it into sort of the climax of the Valley football season, I guess. Is that the idea there? Well, actually, I'm totally wrong because it's not just football. I apologize.
Yeah, it's all sports, and that's what we always try to, kind of preach to people is it's not just a football Hall of Fame; it's a sports Hall of Fame, and we try to always make sure that that point gets across because I do know some people kind of look at it and say, "Oh, it's a football Hall of Fame." And
you just make
that's
that
not
assumption. Yeah. And
Yeah.
I watched that video. Jack Walsh had shot the video of this latest class being introduced at that football game at halftime. And it was incredibly foggy. It's a cool video to watch. I'll embed it or try to link to it when we publish this on valleyindy.org. But describe that night and what it feels like for you as a Derby High School graduate, as a community-minded guy, and an individual who has helped launch this thing. What's it feel like for you to watch the names be read off and the families and the recipients walk out onto the field?
Well, let me just first tell you what an adventure was getting to that night because like I said, we decided to do it last minute. We just really felt that, they needed it. It's so much better when you walk on a field because you get a bigger crowd, and we wanted them to get a nice crowd when they walked on the field. But originally, that game was supposed to be at 7:00 p.m. So I told all the inductees, can you guys show up for 7:00? That's when the game starts, and then at halftime you'll be introduced, and they all agreed.
And where was it? Because it wasn't in Derby, right? Because they were redoing
Derby
the field.
Fields. Yeah, and it was at Oxford High School.
Gotcha.
And,
okay.
If it was at Ansonia or Shelton, Eugene, I would not have done it. But because it was Oxford, and there was really no rivalry with them or anything like that, I really felt, and we all did as a committee, that it would be appropriate to have them walk out on that field because, unfortunately, Derby's field isn't ready yet, and we really wanted them to be able to walk out on some type of field with their families. But the interesting thing, Eugene, is that the game there was rain all week in the forecast for that Friday. There was talk about canceling the game. Then what they did was there was a window where they didn't think it was going to rain, and they moved the game from 7:00, and they bumped it up to 5:30. So then I had to call all the inductees again and hope that they could still all make it. And a lot of people work, so that's not easy to do. But fortunately, it worked out where they said they could all attend. But then it was funny. I got a call from Derby's principal, Marty Pasquale, that Friday morning around 6:00. And he said, "What are your thoughts?" He goes, I can't predict what the weather's going to be, but, my fear is that people are going to sit in the rain. But, Eugene, one of the inductees, he's passed, he's deceased, but his family was coming all the way up from Pennsylvania, and they had come up that, Friday morning or whatever. And there was no way we could cancel that when they took the time to do that. So I told them, we'll take the chance and pray for the best. And fortunately, and the funny thing was too, Eugene, is I'm thinking, everything's going to go okay. But Derby kept scoring and scoring so much that no time was going off the clock. So that was a very long first half. And I was really starting to get worried. The fog started to come in, and I got really worried that by the
So what do
time
you have,
they
like a
got
bottle of antacids with you at all these things? I thought you'd be like,
Well,
I felt so good, it made me so proud. But you're just like a nervous wreck over in the corner.
yeah,
ready
but
to puke.
now I'll get to the good part is once it got to the half, and they got introduced, and it was just a great moment, to see them walk out there, because what was really moving, Eugene, was, like I said, there were so many people who, hadn't been to a Derby football game in a long time, hadn't been to a Derby sporting event because, like nothing else, like anything else, when you get older, you kind of move. You don't always live in the same town you grew up in. So a lot of them don't live in Derby anymore. So the fact that they were able to come out there with their families and just, see how proud they were, that's what makes it all worth it. It really does. And, we as a committee, we just thought it was a great night.
So let's go over the names, if you would. Maybe we can take a couple of minutes to run over the names and who are these people?
Yeah, well, we ironically, we had 3 deceased members make it, which, I was very happy about because I've always said this, Eugene, and our committee is in full agreement that you can't forget that Derby sports started way back when, and you cannot forget these people just because they're no longer with us. So, 3 deceased members were elected to the Hall of Fame, and, one of them was Paul Itch Grant. His nickname was Itch. And then you had John Al Vitello Tiano. And, it was funny. I really don't know how he got the nickname Al, but it stuck for years. And they always call him Al, but his real name is John. And then you had Walt Leonard. And, I believe John Tiano was class of 38. Walt Leonard was class of 1941. And I believe Itch Grant was class of either 47 or 48. I'd have to look again, but somewhere in there. So I was very happy that we had 1 from the 30s and we had 2 from the 40s.
And what were their sports?
They played multiple sports.
Gotcha.
That's the thing too. That really goes a long way. Like, sometimes you could be really good at one sport and sometimes you could be really good at all 3. And, these gentlemen excelled at many sports. I mean, when I was looking up their information, you go back to the old Evening Sentinels, myself, Steve Owens, Ray Silvernail, we're sitting at the library and we're researching all this. I mean, it was really neat to read some of this stuff. And that's really what the Hall of Fame is so good, Eugene, is because you really do learn more and more about the history and tradition of Derby sports. So, they excelled at multiple sports and were very good at all of them. And then, we also had a guy by the name of Frank Tishman. He had graduated with the class in 1962, but he was a Derby football player from 1958 to 1961, and just a tremendous running back. He actually, him and Walt Leonard are tied together, believe it or not, because Walt Leonard was Derby's, I believe, first All-Stater in 1941, or 1940, I apologize. And then Derby didn't have an All-Stater again until 1961 when Frank Ishman made it. And I think he made it along with his teammate Wayne Kruger. But Frank was really the first All-Stater Derby had, since 1941. So that was really cool that they both kind of made the Hall of Fame together. And then, of course, a guy I know you've seen him on my show is John DeFrancisco. And
oh, sure.
Yeah, and John's been subbing at Derby High for the last few years, so the kids really know him. So, he probably got the loudest ovation because all the team, he coaches the team, he's an assistant coach with the team. All the students know him. So, he got a big hand, and, it was nice to see his family get to take it all in. And, he was really honored. He was a tremendous baseball coach at Derby, won 2 state titles. And then, you top it off with the next three that got in, and it was really cool because you had two from the 80s, and they were both tremendous athletes. And that was Eileen Duggan. She was the class of 1986. And then, of course, Heather Butan. She was the class of 1989. Eileen was a tremendous, two-sport player at Derby, basketball and softball. And she was on Derby's only softball championship team, which was 1985. And she was a tremendous player for that team. And then you had Heather Butan, who was class 89. And Heather was a 4-year starter for Derby and a tremendous pitcher. So, and they were both happy that they were going in together. Heather kind of, got there when Eileen was a senior and Heather was a freshman. And, Eileen always kind of still followed Heather's career, even though she went to college. And, it was nice to see them both get in together. And then, you follow it.
Wait, hold on. I'm going to interrupt you for 1 second. This is like the only thing I could add to this entire broadcast. But I know Heather. She used to be my neighbor here on Hawthorne Avenue. We miss nice her and her daughter Hallie. She now has 3 children, but when she lived next door, it was her and Hallie, and that was like my son Jack's like first friend. He would just follow her around, Hallie, blindly everywhere. So that's an awesome family. Congratulations to her.
Yeah, and it was really well deserved. And then the baby of the group, I call him the baby. It's kind of funny because he was anything but a baby throughout his career, but he was also on the show a couple of times, and that was Ben Bartone. He was class of 1992. He was a 3-sport player at Derby. He excelled at all 3 sports, but, baseball, he was just off the charts with, helping Derby win the 1992 state championship. And he gets in with his coach, John DeFrancisco, which is a nice touch because, they were very close. Ben had a, devastating football injury his senior year where he broke his wrist, and he was having trouble early on his senior year, like getting that wrist to where he wanted it. And John D kind of always would call him, make sure he was okay, try to offer any advice he could. So it's good to see them going together because they kind of went through a lot of ups and downs, and so it was great to see that as well. So I mean, those 8, it's just an honor that they're all in our Hall of Fame. We're very proud of that.
That's cool. And just go over again when the banquet's going to be. I know you said it's April. And when are you bringing it back to the Valley? You going to Stratford, huh?
Yeah,
fancy.
We have to because that place holds 400 people. But one thing I want to add before I go over to Banquet is we also recently picked our service award in honor of longtime Derby sports contributor Bill Pucci and Bev Moran, a longtime,
yes,
Derby sports. I call her a Derby sports legend because she has given so much to Derby youth, Derby athletics. She started girls programs. She's the recipient of our service award this year, and we're very proud to have her as this year's winner.
Also, member of the Ansonia Board of Aldermen / Alderwomen. So congratulations to Mrs. Moran. That's great, Mike. So
yeah, and I can't emphasize enough to Eugene about the committee we have. I mean, these guys, I've mentioned them many times, but they just do a phenomenal job, and this cannot succeed without them. They really put the work in. We really waited a while this year to name the class because we said this year would be a tougher year because now, you really have to dig into it and really, go through your research and make sure you're doing everybody justice. And these guys all have worked so hard to make sure this has happened, and they put so much work in. And, again, they do it because they have a love for Derby and Derby sports. So I just can't say enough about them.
Yeah, that's great. Good work, Mike, and to the group. All right, so go over the banquet one more time with the pertinent details. And then I wanted to ask you maybe just for the last couple of minutes, and this might be an impossible question, but it's the end of the year, 2018. So this is when everybody in the media takes off a few weeks, and you'll just see best of or year in reviews lists, best of, worst of. So I'm wondering if you could maybe weigh in with the top sports stories in the Valley of the last year. If you could, maybe the top 3, or you can just decline it because I know I didn't give you any
Yeah,
prep, but go over that banquet stuff, and then we'll go into that.
Yeah, so the banquet will be Sunday, April 28th, 2019. The doors will open at 12:30 p.m. They could open at 12. I'm still kind of working on that, but as of right now, it'll be 12:30 p.m. The cost is $50 a person, and on it, obviously the inductees go for free, but it's 50 a person, and again, I think it's gonna be a great event, and we really like the location we're at. Vizano's was very good to us last year, and I just think it's going to be another great event and another great year.
Good. And where can people get more information and try to find tickets and all that? I know it's a little early, but where can people go online or Facebook or what have you?
Yeah, I will have more details with that, but they could always contact me, and I always leave my number on our Facebook page. And they could email me at Neech, Neech 76 at AOL.com.
And what's the Facebook page?
The Facebook page is Derby High School Athletic Hall of Fame.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and the other thing is too, we are going to set up a PayPal account, so that's going to be, and they could also, make payments to Derby High School as well. So there's a couple ways to make payments, but we are going to set up a PayPal account. We do feel that'll be a lot easier for a lot of people.
Right, less work. Yeah. That's like we do the Great Give every year. There's always a couple of people who want to send us physical checks, and I'm like, oh, it's not. No, please just do it online. It makes life so much easier. But anyway, I'm lazy. All right, Mike. So I put you on the spot. That's the Derby High School Athletic Hall of Fame, the latest inductions, and Bev Moran getting a service award. But now, like I said, it's the end of the year, Mike.
Yeah.
Best of, worst of. What do you think? What were the top 3, if any, stories in the sports world? I guess I'm talking, any type of, however you want to define that, Valley related. What was some things? Educate me as a moron.
I'm going to go with this as number 3, only because I want the Valley, the Valley schools to, be the focus. But the number 3 story, without a doubt, and as much as it pains me to say it, I have to say it because a lot of people in the Valley follow them, would be the Boston Red Sox winning another world championship. I'm a Yankee fan, but I have to give the Red Sox a lot of credit. And to me, there are a lot of people in the Valley who root for the Red Sox. In fact, I think I have 2 committee members who are Red Sox fans. So, I know they were very happy, but you can't say enough about that organization. And as much as this pains me to say it, I'm a big Yankee fan. But right now, the Red Sox have been the best team of the 21st century. And congratulations to them on winning, their 4th world championship in this century.
Wow, that's from a diehard New York Yankee fan. All right. So number 2 then, moving on to like anything
number
local,
2, number 2, the girls cross country team for Derby won another state title. That's their 2nd in 3 years. And, for Coach Nick DeLugo, counting indoor, outdoor, and, counting indoor and outdoor track and cross country, he's now won 5 championships at Derby. Wow. And he's won with both the boys and girls, which is remarkable. Because
probably
that's
a
not
future.
Easy.
Now, do you guys induct coaches if they didn't go to? Or you have to be. I was going to say he could be a future Hall of Famer, but
you have to be
a high school graduate of Derby.
If you're an athlete, but a coach is separate because you can't penalize a coach because he or she didn't go to Derby High. If they coached for a long time and won, and had a great deal of success, they are eligible because we do have one in there, Ludi Filippo, and he did not go to Derby High.
Okay, so maybe Nick is a future Hall of Famer, huh?
Oh, I don't know how he couldn't be. He's won 5 championships and he's just made that cross country program, or I should say running program, just the talk of the town. He really has.
That's great. All right, so that's your number 2, and then so you got the Red Sox winning the World Series. We got girls track. I don't want to say the girls running.
No, girls cross country.
Cross country. Sorry.
Yeah.
And now number 1.
Number 1 would have to be the Seymour baseball team winning their state championship. That was their first title since 2007. So 11 years later, it's their 3rd title in team history. And, they were not picked to win the state title that year, but they had, great group of boys who worked very hard all season. And, we had him on recently on the show. Coach Jeff Gilbert has just done a remarkable job replacing Bob Kello. And to me, that was the biggest story because they had not won a state title in over a decade, and they brought a championship back to Seymour. So that would be the top. Those three would be the top stories of the Valley for me.
Hey, that's awesome, Mike. Thanks so much for, first of all, bailing me out a little and allowing me to get some additional content on valleyindy.org. I do appreciate that. And for just thinking on your feet, coming up with those stories. That's awesome.
Yeah, no problem. And again, I appreciate everything you do for keeping this show on the air for us and, always giving back to the Valley. We really do appreciate it.
All right. On behalf of Mike Kenichi of Valley Sports Rewind, this is Eugene Driscoll of valleyindy.org saying see you next week.